Oh my word. Today we're going to talk about one of the most exciting things for the entire NFL and fantasy football season. And I'm going to do it right now. All right, today's show is going to be phenomenal. We're going to talk about three things. Number one, we're going to talk about the player at hand. Number two, we're going to talk about the season-long outlook. And then number three, we're going to go take a peek at Prize Picks, and we're going to make some picks live today. So let's start here. Najee Harris landing on the Steelers. It's a great landing spot for him, but let's look back before we can look forward. So I'm going over to my season-long study hub here on teamriseorfall.com. I am going to sort by Pittsburgh, so I click the Pittsburgh filter, and I can see last year James Conner ended up playing 13 games, 629 snaps. What I'm looking for is the snap percentage. So as the lead back last year, and he actually lost his lead role at some point during the season, he still finished with a 64% snap rate, a touch percentage of 36% out of that backfield. Not too bad, not too bad. An interesting season for him for sure. What I did like a lot about James Conner last year is, while he was active, he led the team in carries inside the 20, had a nice 42.2% market share inside the red zone. And I think that someone like Najee Harris will have the opportunity to be a three-down thumper. Now, when we look at Najee Harris coming out of Alabama, we know that he was someone who could tote the rock and be everything, the alpha and the omega of an offense if asked to be so. Super powerful runner, and I think that he will excel in Pittsburgh with, hopefully a nice aerial assault out there with a billion wide receivers running around looking good. So I'm hoping that Najee Harris has three-down potential here, and I think that he was drafted to be so. Now, if I slide over to Prize Picks, who is sponsoring today's show, by the way, down below in the description section, you grab the Prize Picks link and use promo code DONUTS. Up at the top left of the screen, you should be able to see that, I believe, or maybe top right. Can't tell anymore. Use that promo code DONUTS, and two things will happen. Number one, that supports me, and number two, I'm going to support you. If you use that promo code, you're going to get a nice deposit match, and the descriptions are down below. And on top of that, I am also going to give you a ton of content via the Draft Kit. So if you go to the Draft Kit afterwards, you grab that, I'll refund you for your purchase, and I will give you promos to my website and to my sports betting website as well. So you'll get a ton of stuff just for using the Prize Picks promo. Not too bad. So there's two ways that we can look at someone like Najee Harris on Prize Picks. We can look at his 2021 to 2022 full season fantasy points, or we can take a peek at his single stat rushing lines. Now, I like this rushing line at 935. I actually think Najee Harris is going to be a phenomenal play this year. I don't care that they still have a couple guys in the backfield. I think if a team drafts someone this high at this running back position, they're going to give them everything, right? Everything in between the 20s, everything inside the red zone. He's going to get all the carries that matter. So I think that Najee Harris at 935 rushing yards for me is going to be an over. Now, the rest of these, I think, are actually a little bit easier. I started with the hardest pick. This one was the most difficult, but I thought it was one that we needed to go over first. Okay, we're going to look back real quick at the New York Jets 2020-2021 season to look forward to Zach Wilson, and we'll make the pick on Prize Picks as well. And here's the deal. Sam Darnold, Joe Flacco, this offense only threw the ball 498 times with them. That is not many for the 2021 season, and they only combined for 15 touchdown passes. That's deplorable. Ugh. They threw 14 picks. Wretched offense. Darnold rushed for 200 yards, and when they were inside the red zone, Sam Darnold threw the ball 11. He went 11 for 30 throwing the ball. Disgusting. Just bad offense inside the red zone. Joe Flacco 5 for 11 inside the 20-yard line. A terrible completion rate. I mean, if you want to compare it to other quarterbacks, Josh Allen had a little over 70% completion rate inside the 20. These guys combined going 16 for 41. That is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's a 40% total combined completion rate, and they had 8 touchdown passes. Just yuck. So why is Zach Wilson going to be a good pick this year? I don't think he's going to be. And on top of that, over here on Prize Picks, there's two ways you can attack this. Number one, they have the single stat 3,800-yard passing yard line, and you can go over under here. I would take the under there. Number two, you could go to the fantasy score, Zach Wilson 250, and you could do the same thing. You take the under. For me, I'm going under 3,800 yards passing. Again, looking back last year, these two quarterbacks combined for 3,000 passing yards on 500 passing attempts. How is Zach Wilson all of a sudden going to throw from 800 more yards on probably the same amount of attempts? Is he that much more talented than both of them? Probably a little bit more talented than Sam Darnold. And the situation he steps into, though, is very similar to Darnold's, and I think it's going to be a rough go. 3,800 yards passing is a lot to ask for out of a rookie on a very talentless offense like the New York Jets. So, number two pick there, Zach Wilson under, and I'm going to talk about flex play versus power play for sure. Just give me a minute, okay? All right, the next one's going to be exciting at least. Kyle Pitts landing in Atlanta this year. I mean, this guy is an absolute freak. I remember the workout videos. My first thought was, oh my goodness, this guy looks like a Viking warrior, and he moves like a little scat back. It is crazy how athletic this guy is. He's going to be one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL in a few years. Rookie season, we never really see tight ends excel, and when you go back and look at some of the higher profile tight end picks in past 15, 20 years, we still don't see them breaking out like you expect them to every time, right? I mean, everybody gets so excited. They become a high-end pick all the time at the tight end position, and they just never really shake out that way. Kyle Pitts could buck that trend this year. He really could because of the landing spot, the propensity for Matt Ryan to lean on his tight ends no matter who is in there, and just the overall athleticism of Kyle Pitts. Now, I'm expecting the learning curve to slow him down a little bit more than the excitement level. Now, let's go look at the study hub. Again, this, by the way, if you want to use this, I'll put the link down below in the description section. I've left it free. I'm going to leave it free probably for like a week or so. Anytime I shoot these videos, you guys can check them out. But they're over there at teamriseorfall.com. If you are one of the draft kit purchasers, which by the way is $9.99 right now for early bird pricing, you get access to the study hub here, our quick pick cheat sheets. We have 32 teams report getting written, 200 player notes being written up, just massive blurbs like you're seeing the one for the rookie player board. We're doing this for all the NFL teams themselves too. Then rankings, of course, all this stuff, videos, draft guides, podcasts, a lot of premium stuff. Pretty cool. Less than $10. I'm just trying it out. Want to have fun with this year, so I hired 8 staff to help me write all this stuff, and here we are. So the study hub here, if you want to use it, you can use it. Go ahead. It's free right now. Check it out, description section. I'm going to click the tight end position, click Atlanta. Now look at last year. I mean, we had an interesting season here. Hayden Hurst ended up with 149 PPR points. And if I look at his targets per game, 5.44, a 14.4% market share, which is not bad. I mean, not bad out of tight end position. The elite tight ends are getting a little over 21%, so that's not terrible, right outside the top 8, I believe is what I found. Air yards, 326. I think that could go up for Kyle Pitts this year. Inside the 20 is where I'm looking. The average for the NFL last year at tight end position was 22% inside the red zone, so Hayden Hurst looked at just a little bit less at 19.7% of all the targets inside the 20 last year. Gobbled up 15 targets, did haul in 4 touchdowns. Can Kyle Pitts change that? I think this right here is where Kyle Pitts will either excel or falter this year. And when I look at the Prize Picks lines, listen, 2 ways to look at this again, single stat or the fantasy score. If you think that Kyle Pitts has the opportunity to score more than 4 touchdowns this year, I think you should probably take the over on the fantasy score here. Because, number one, you have Hayden Hurst, who scored over 140. He scored 149 last year, 149 PPR points. Now, when we go look at the scoring chart here on Prize Picks, we see that this is very much so a PPR scoring format, and they get a point for every 10 yards. They get 1 point for every reception. So if you're just saying, I think he can match what Hayden Hurst did last year, you're looking at 149 points. Take the over and don't look back. Now, if you are going to be looking at the single stat, I actually think there's some cause for concern here. The single stat for receiving yards, Kyle Pitts is at 800. That is extremely high. So if you think that he is not going to hit 800 yards, all right, which Hayden Hurst ended up, Hayden Hurst ended up with 571 receiving yards. If you think that he's not going to get 800 receiving yards, you could take the under. And I think there's a path for him to hit the under on the receiving yards and still clearing the over on the projected fantasy score line of 140. So I think you can pick your cup of tea right here. I'm going over fantasy points 140. I probably would be totally fine taking Kyle Pitts under 800, but I'm going to roll with the fantasy point projection of over 140. All right, let's keep this going. We are on a roll. We've got 3 picks here. Our video is getting a little bit longer than I want, so let's do one more. And this last one's going to be someone that was our first tier 2 skill player guy over here on our rookie big board. So Rashod Bateman in a terrible landing spot. Love the talent coming out of Minnesota, and I thought this guy would truly be one of those players I wanted to target in best ball, but he's just not. He's not going to be, and I'll show you why. Listen, I get it. I love the all-around game of him, but we're going to go down to Lamar Jackson throwing the football last year, and my friends, it's just not enough volume. It's just not enough volume. And I get maybe some of this was because they just had no one to throw to. Hollywood Brown is not a wide receiver 1. I think Rashod Bateman actually profiles as a better wide receiver 1 than than Brown. Mark Andrews pretty much the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. Do they throw the ball so much more that Bateman has wide receiver 1 upside, can get up to 900 yards receiving, something like that his rookie year? I don't know. 376 passing attempts last year is a miserable amount in this day and age for the NFL. 2,700 yards passing. That is it. Now, here's the deal. Check this out. I'm going to go down to the wide receivers for Baltimore last year, and I'm going to show you this, and we're looking at the receiving yards. Marquise Brown is the number 1 last year, had 769. The rest of these guys accumulated very little. In fact, they did not clear 950 yards receiving. Now, if we slide over to the tight end for Baltimore, this is where you see your money made. I'm going to scroll. I think I have a different filter. Atlanta. Okay, give me Baltimore. This is where the money was made last year. Mark Andrews racked up a fair amount of targets, 25% of the market share last year, and he did accumulate 700 yards receiving. So if you're telling me right now that out of the 2,700 yards passing, we had 1,450 of them between both Andrews and Hollywood Brown, you're telling me now there's only 1,400 left over, and you expect potentially, if we get a recreation of this past season, Bateman to come in, and even if he gets 50% of the remaining yards, that's 700 yards. I think that's best case scenario, and I think this team's just going to pound the rock again. So if we go over to Prize Picks and we look at the receiving yards for Bateman, there's 2 ways we could play this again. We could look at his fantasy points, or we could look at the total receiving yards. So receiving yards line is 725. That's a very tough line. That's a trap line for me. I think a lot of people look at this and they go, oh man, I love the over here. But if we broke down the data from last year and we just say, what if Bateman were there and it was the same offense? Would he have slid into a role where he is accumulating a third of the receiving yards? All right, if he had done that, he would have matched Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews his rookie year. So if the offense is the same this year and Bateman slides in there and can match Hollywood Brown, 725 is almost like a best case scenario. That's a tough pick. So I think Bateman at the under here is the play, but I think that's really hard, and I think that makes your pick very difficult. So here's where the flex and power play comes into mind. So if you're going to go flex play, this is a fine play. You could go something like Bateman under the 725 line, and you'll be all right because, listen, for the flex play, you just need to hit 3 out of 4. If you hit 3 out of 4, you get 1.5 times your investment. So if you invest, you're having some fun here for the entire season. So you invest 100 and you get a flex play, you get 1.5 times back. If you go flex play and you get all 4 picks, you're going to hit 5 times your investment. So if Bateman does hit the under here, you would end up going $100 in, $500 out. If you go power play, you've got to hit them all, which is why you add someone like Bateman all of a sudden, that is tough. That is really tough. So 4 correct picks pays out 10 times. Now, if I take out Bateman, the power play goes down a little bit. 3 out of 3 correct picks ends up being a 5 times return. So if you're going to do this, you know what, my friends? You might as well just throw Bateman in there and then make it a flex play, or because the flex play payout would be $500, or go power play, leave Bateman out, and just hope you can get 3 out of 3 with Pitts, Wilson, and Najee Harris. Now, if you wanted to go over to the fantasy score for Bateman, I think this is another very difficult line of 110 because I still think he can rack up a decent amount of points this year. I mean, again, when we were looking at the wide receivers here, Hollywood Brown last year, he did score 183 fantasy points. So if we're going with PPR, Bateman, if he slides in there and does match what Brown did last year receiving yards wise, I think why can't he have more than 110 fantasy points? So I think the under on the receiving yards probably the play, but can go over here on the 110 points and go from there. So good luck, my friends. I think this is a pretty cool site. I'm going to be doing a lot of NFL stuff this year. I already do a bunch for MLB and NBA on this site. And I hope you use that promo code DONUTS on the top of the screen. Grab the link down below. And if you never looked at Prize Picks before because you're worried about being in a banned state, it's not the same as all the sports betting states. Prize Picks is in a lot of states that you're not eligible to be on sportsbooks. You can be eligible on Prize Picks. So give it a look down below, description section, and I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. And I will focus a lot of content on Prize Picks this year, on the NFL full season and on the NFL season itself daily, of course. And please check out the draft kit down below. I'll include some really cool stuff for this if the desire is there and the demand is there for it. So grab the draft kit. Very cheap. You get a bunch of cool promos involved. Grab the description, the link for Prize Picks down below in the description section. And I'll see you on the inside, my friends. Take care and have a wonderful day.